No one can control the weather. You know what? Not everybody can control their employment situation.
The left is now using the freezing temperatures all across the country as a crutch to push their radical left-wing agenda.
Not only can we stop the wind from blowing, we can't stop the Republicans from being heartless and cruel.
It is now America the Entitled.
We are called to put an end to economic and social inequalities that threaten to unravel the city we love.
Rudy Giuliani responds to the Big Apple's new mayor and his obsession with raising taxes on the so-called rich. More of my conservative solutions for America tonight. We go in depth with the former CEO of Shell Oil to explain how energy independence can remedy our current economic crisis. All of that plus a great American panel that breaks down the latest Dennis Rodman meltdown.
Do you have to take the abuse? Well, we gonna take it. Do you, sir? Let me know. Are you gonna take that abuse? We're gonna get it.
And Tim Tebow's epic ESPN debut. Hannity starts right here, right now. And welcome to Hannity. We begin tonight with the big chill that is shattering records all across the country. And thanks to the so-called polar vortex of frigid air, we have wind chills as low as -24 in Michigan and in the negative teens elsewhere in the country, keeping schools, businesses closed. Many flights are grounded tonight. And earlier this morning, New York City broke a 118-year-old record with a low temperature of 4 degrees, -17 with the wind chill. And standing by outside our studios in Midtown Manhattan to tell us how it feels. I was watching you on New Year's Eve. This is horrible. We keep doing this to you.
Oh, if it had been like this on New Year's Eve, we were out there for hours.
I know.
We all would have been frozen to death by the time that broadcast was over. It is 9 degrees on my phone here. But if you look at that map that you just showed, Sean, -6 degrees here with the wind. So this is the Sean Hannity wet T-shirt contest.
Oh,
it's the conservative version.
Wow. When did you want that?
Earlier, but we're going to show you how quickly a T-shirt will freeze. Watch this. This bucket is full of water. We have our Fox News T-shirt here. We're dousing it with water.
Wow.
And it's going to freeze. Let's see. I'm going to try.
Still looks wet, Ainsley.
I know, but it doesn't take long, Sean. It doesn't take long.
Wow.
Look at this.
What? That
it's freezing already, you can tell.
I'm glad I'm not outside with a T-shirt that's wet. While that's getting frozen,
yeah.
We have a video of a man throwing water in the air, and it instantly is freezing. Let's watch this. This is fascinating.
Isn't that incredible? It's boiling water.
Yeah, and it becomes snow.
Right, and you know who discovered this? It was a student. I was reading about this earlier. A student was making homemade ice cream, and they heated the milk, and they realized that the ice cream froze quickly when the milk was hot.
I was wondering, I was watching you all on New Year's Eve, and I was wondering how at some point your mouth has to start freezing and you can't speak, but that didn't happen.
Oh, no, Sean, toward the end of the broadcast, we could barely talk.
Yeah. All right. Well,
it was really cold.
I tell you what, we're going to go to our segment, and when we're going to come back by the end of the segment, and we're going to look and see if, is that now frozen?
Yeah, look.
We'll come back to Ainsley at the end of the segment. We'll get an update on all of that. And while temperatures continue to hit historic lows, it seems as though the freezing cold weather is getting some liberals, especially those over at the Peacock Network, NBC. And for starters, during a show on Friday, NBC News host Al Sharpton got all dressed up to tout his left-wing theory on global warming and even slam Fox News. Watch this.
These right-wingers are boiling over with denial. Just because it snows in winter doesn't mean the planet isn't getting warmer. It sure doesn't take much for the folks at Fox to hit their melting point. The results of tonight's experiments are in. And we've deduced the right wing could use a new talking point.
All right, you can't make this stuff up. And while Sharpton, he puts on his white lab coat and peddles that inaccurate theory, his colleague over there, Eddie Schultz, he's using the weather as a metaphor for what? Politics, Republicans.
No one can control the weather. You know what? Not everybody can control their employment situation. Not only can we stop the wind from blowing, we can't stop the Republicans from being heartless and cruel.
Yeah, heartless and cruel. Now, it didn't end there. The left-wing lunatic, he actually goes on to blame the cold weather. Remember, cold weather on what? Nothing else but global warming.
What's your analysis of this cold snap? Is it climate change, the aftermath of what we have seen happen in our environment? How do you call it, Mace?
It could be just one of those years. We're cyclical sometimes. You go back in history. You think here 15, 20 years ago, had a big cold snap. You look back in the records then again, 15, 20 years ago then, maybe a little longer than that. So sometimes it's cyclical with these cold snaps.
All right, here with reaction from the Competitive Enterprise Institute, Chris Horner's back with us, and clean tech investor and eco-entrepreneur Howard Gould is with us. Guys, good to see you.
Good to see you, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
118-year record, and I think the one that got me the most, Chicago, is actually, it's colder there than at the South Pole. Now, maybe I'm not the... How do you explain that, Howard?
Well, we've been talking about this polar vortex. The fact is that you've got Arctic air that is moving down over the, over where we are currently, where it should be up on top of the Arctic, because the Arctic itself is actually heating. And so it's a question of physics. As hot air rises, cold air falls, and unfortunately that hot air is rising off the top of the Arctic,
is because
and it's falling down over us.
Do you think this is because of global warming?
Yeah, I do.
All right, now,
absolutely.
If you look at I have seen this. If you go back to Time magazine, Chris, you know this, they actually were proclaiming the next ice age is coming. Now it's become global warming. Now they seem to be backing off and just talking about climate change in general, so they can't be as wrong as often. But if it snows, global warming. Doesn't snow, global warming. If it's cold, global warming. If it's hot, it's global warming. If it rains, global warming. If it doesn't rain, global warming. It seems like everything is global warming. Your reaction?
Right. Well, you've heard it's better remain silent and be presumed a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Unfortunately, these people, every time the jokes begin, and you can tell by watching the Right Reverend Sharpton, that's what prompts it. Every time the jokes begin with this countervailing body of reality, particularly when it's precisely the opposite of what they predicted occurs, and they can't resist, and they begin this flailing insistence that whatever occurs, particularly the opposite of what they said was going to occur, is proof of their faith. It only burns indelibly in the public's mind, I think, that the lack of seriousness of the movement, the lack of consistency, and the bankruptcy of their claim to science. Time said in '74 that global cooling caused a polar vortex. Who caused the polar vortex that allowed Washington's army to escape in the other 70s, the 1777 escape from Trenton to win at the Battle of Princeton? That was a polar vortex in January that allowed him to escape. This is what happens, but then they seize upon it. And again, it's always when the jokes begin in the face of mounting countervailing reality to say, well, this is exactly what we predicted. Even if it's just like, if you like your plan, you can keep it. Meant, of course, you were going to lose it. Any fool could have seen that. It was so self-evident. They claimed the opposite. They didn't need to argue it. Same thing's going on here. They're doing our work for us.
Yeah, I got to be honest, Howard. I mean, how do we believe the same people that were predicting just a couple of decades ago that the new ice age is coming, and now they're advancing the global warming theory? I mean, it seems that you lost credibility. And then, of course, we have scientists that were caught making up data.
Well, we can get to that in a second. I mean, the fact is, you're talking about an article that was written 40 years ago. 40 years ago, in Time magazine, you're talking 1974. Yes, there's evolution that's going on in science. We know more about the atmosphere. We know more about what is occurring on our planet. But isn't this about an agenda? Wait, just hang on a second, though. But I think to what Chris was saying, I think is quite ironic, because it's the fact is that you guys don't have people on the show to talk about issues of climate change or global warming. Well, what are you, a potted unless plant? All of a sudden it comes out that it's, hey, it's cold out. So obviously the climate must not be
We've done entire hours
warming.
on the topic. I don't know what show you're watching. Chris, it seems as I look at over the years, the patterns are very clear. There's an ebb and flow to temperature and global temperatures and the Earth's temperature. It seems that we're just in a different cycle right now, and there seems to be a political agenda. Am I wrong?
But climate changes. It always has. It always will. There are deniers, people who claim that climate didn't change until the horrors of industrial man, which must be curbed. But there will always be people who seize upon climate or weather to assail those whose lifestyles they don't like. For example, the witch next door caused the crops to fail and the babies to die. She doesn't have an SUV, set her on fire. That was very common during the Little Ice Age, during a previous cooling. So there will always be people seeking to take advantage of it. But, Sean, you do shows on global warming when they say warming is proof of warming. So I disagree with Howard. You do shows also when they make something fools themselves saying cooling is proof of warming.
All right, but my favorite story are the global warming alarmists that got stuck in the ice, and then their rescuers got stuck in the ice. But I got to run. Guys, good to see you both. We check back in with Ainsley Earhardt, the co-host of Fox and Friends First. Come on, no way. Is that really the?
Yes.
That's the one?
That's the same T-shirt.
Wait a minute. Where's the other T-shirt? Just so we can prove it to
over
everybody.
Here. Can you see? Can you pan over on this T-shirt? I'm trying not to slide because we, poured water on the ground.
Well,
Here's
now I know
one.
why you kept shaking it, because you knew that would happen, because you're scientist Ainsley Earhardt.
That's exactly right. Tell my old teachers that.
I think, well, listen, it took a little longer, but we proved our point, and we probably avoided a great segment on Jon Stewart. All right, Ainsley, thank you. And still ahead tonight on